Tell us the James Gregory story for somebody that's never heard it.
Well, I'll give you a brief version because I could talk all day about that. As far as me being in the comedy business, I kind of stumbled into this, quite frankly. That's why I was in my 30s when I started. And a lot of people don't realize this, but prior to 1982, there was no such place anywhere below the Mason-Dixon line or even throughout the heartland of America where you could go and see live stand-up comedy. The only place you could see live comedians would have been in Los Angeles, New York, Boston, Chicago, or Cleveland. There was no such thing as any venue with strict stand-up comedians on the stage. Nowhere. So in 1982, two gentlemen had the idea to open a comedy club in Atlanta, Georgia. It was the Punchline. And they opened the first comedy club in the South. And a year before that, there was a place on North Avenue in Atlanta. It was called the Excelsior Meal. Actually, it was a restaurant. And downstairs, they had, like on the weekend, like a band and things like that. And the guys who owned that place, they loved comedy, and they had a comedy workshop in the basement every Sunday night. Not a comedy club, no professionals, just people who went on stage and had some fun. And I started hanging out there because I love comedy, just been a fan of comedy. And I had friends that dared me to go on stage, and I did. You know, nobody got paid, just something to do.
Yeah.
Then when the Punchline opened up, and they needed an opening act, they needed an MC, a local guy to MC the show. And they hired me.
Yeah.
And that got my foot in the water, so to speak. And at that time, I still had a job. All the comedians I met at that time, we all had jobs. We didn't know that comedy were going to turn out to be a career. We didn't know there was going to be more than one comedy club around the country. And then 1983, other clubs started to open, like Bruce Ayers in Birmingham, Alabama.
Yeah.
And the guys in South Carolina, North Carolina. So we could go out of state and do a show. So we all starved to death for the first 2 or 3 years, quite frankly. And that's how all that started. Because if that club had not opened in 1982, in my wildest imagination, I would never have thought that I could be a comedian. That thought would not enter my mind. I think I'd go to California and become a comedian. I would not have said, I think I could go to New York and try to be a comedian.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of me searching out for a place to work, those places came to me. And I've always been grateful for those two guys who had this idea to start a comedy club in Atlanta, Georgia. Without them, I wouldn't be here right now talking to you. I'd be selling something because I was in the sales business before them.